CEO Money is sponsored by WF News 1 Incorporated. Views and opinions heard on CEO Money are not necessarily the opinion of this station or its management. Material on this program is intended for general information only and should not be taken as specific investment, tax, or legal advice.
Welcome to CEO Money, with your hosts Michael Yorba and Mervyn Price interviewing private and publicly traded industry titans. It's a fast-paced show focusing on CEO achievement stories, industry breakthroughs, disruptive technology, and emerging growth companies. CEO Money keeps you ahead of the curve on private and public equity trends you can't get anywhere else. We deliver tomorrow's trade today. And now, here's your hosts, Michael Yorba and Mervyn Price.
Welcome to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba.
And I'm Mervyn Price.
All right, today we're going to cover quite a few things on the CEO Money show. This is B2B and B2C segments, so business to business, business to consumer. Our first guest today, Jeff Cozart, CEO, Juniper, Unmanned. And Jeff, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Let's start off, Jeff, if we can, by getting some background on who you are for our listening audience, then what Juniper Unmanned does, and then between Merv and I, we've got a litany of questions to walk through with you.
You bet. And so my background is that I'm a geospatial guy. It means that I've been in the mapping industry for a very long time. I actually started my career crawling through the Yucatan Peninsula with a GPS receiver and surveying Maya ruin sites, and I turned those into maps that we ultimately sold to National Geographic. And a few years later, I found myself at a show, a map-making show, and saw a small unmanned aircraft at that show, and thought, boy, they're able to make maps with that unmanned aircraft that were very much more efficiently produced than what I was doing, literally crawling through the jungle, contending with rattlesnakes, and even the trees bit in some of those locations. So I thought, boy, this is a game-changing technology, and I brought that into the university system and taught at the University of Colorado how to use unmanned aircraft specifically for civil engineering purposes.
Wow. Well, no snake bites, I hope.
No snake bites. I had a few moments that were a little worrisome, I would say.
Yeah, I've had some close ones myself. All right. What does Juniper Unmanned do?
Right. So Juniper Unmanned is a drone solutions provider. That means we use automation and machine learning on the work sites to ultimately enhance the way jobs get done. An example of that would be that we're using a technology called LiDAR to make maps of work sites, and that we can feed those maps directly into the heavy equipment so that those the pieces of heavy equipment can, in effect, drive themselves. They can build a road themselves. They can move dirt themselves, and ultimately they're taking the data that we're producing from an unmanned aircraft to do that much more efficiently and effectively than traditional techniques.
Well, okay, now I get that. Now, the value of these drones is obvious, but I need you to break that down into percentage savings or time, insurance purposes, things of that nature for the value of the construction industry using Juniper Unmanned.
You bet, and you hit a big one right off, and that is safety. That most of these job sites take safety very, it's a very high priority for them. So that if we can avoid putting personnel out on the job site where they're likely to you suffer an injury or be in a hazardous position, then that is a significant value add for these companies. And the work that we do in many cases it takes people out of a dangerous place and allows the job to get done much more efficiently. So let's look at an example specifically with road building. So if you have road construction, and we did this project for a large equipment manufacturer, and We build two roads. One road uses traditional survey techniques, and they put a surveyor out on the roadway feeding information manually, verbally, to the driver of a vehicle. And contemporaneously with that, we built a second road that was identical in design. And in this case, we used the data we were producing from a drone, fed it directly into the machine. Ultimately, there was about a 47% reduction in the amount of time that it took to build the road, with about a 30% difference in the operational costs. So in other words, after about four miles of road build, every mile thereafter, you're producing a 30% savings on the overall cost of the road construction.
Those are big dollars.
Yes, of course. There's billions and billions of dollars that go into road construction. So it's a radical change in the methodology and big savings.
Okay, let me move this forward. That is amazing cost savings. Now, the drone marketplace is different than many other things. Let's take it out of what some people would think as science fiction, and move it into who's big in this industry and how it's going to shake out. You bet. The industry is changing, and of course, every industry does as it develops, right? And new industries begin with a lot of interest, and that's where we saw the drone industry a few years ago. 2 years ago, people were talking about this new revolution called the drone. But as it's and the proposition at that point in time was anybody could own a drone, and that they could accomplish these amazing tasks, and then the drone would bring back a ham sandwich when they were done with the project. But the reality of that was very different. This isn't a proposition where most people can own a drone and operate it themselves. There's a level of sophistication that goes into the methodology for flying the drone, the compliance with the FAA, the data processing that's necessary to feed the data back into the heavy equipment. So we've developed a model that says that we would provide those things to you as a service. And the large companies that are in the heavy construction industry are hiring that service to come out and add this value on the work site. So as we see the industry developing, there are a few players in the space that are taking more of a services model approach. We see a decline in the purchase of the actual unmanned aircraft and a large, or I guess it would be a shrinkage of the growth of the sales of the unmanned aircraft. But we see a large growth in the uses of the unmanned aircraft, and therefore the services side of it is growing quite dramatically. Great answer to my questions. Merv, you had a question about challenges?
Yeah, what challenges ahead do you see, Jeff? Technically and publicly, FAA, I mean, it's an immensely big market comparatively, but it's heavily regulated. What are your additional challenges?
I don't believe that the regulations have been the biggest hurdle. Whenever we talk about change, any kind of change has to goes through an adoption cycle. And what we are seeing right now is that the large companies are beginning to adopt this new technology. But it often boils down to the individual project manager who's making a decision, and he's comfortable with an old method. He knows how much margin he's going to make on the old method, and putting a new technology into that position, he has to grow in his level of comfort and confidence that it will deliver exceptional value. So this is an adoption cycle that is just beginning now, and I think we see the next 3 years, where we're about to scale up quite dramatically in that adoption. But it is ultimately right now doing a lot of proof of concept work in order to give those project managers the confidence that the technology is acceptable to their typical standards.
Tell our audience exactly what the company does, and go straight from concept idea, getting the drone, fitting it out, what's in it, and delivering it.
You bet. I'll provide, again, as an example point of reference, a Department of Transportation, a state Department of Transportation. We are located here in Colorado, so you can imagine that there's a lot of work that happens on highways that go through the mountains of Colorado. And a lot of that work happens as a result of rockfall onto the highways, causing damage and hazard to the people that are driving along those roads.
You know, Jeff, I'm sorry, but we're about out of time on this one. I want to bring you back because there's so many more questions we didn't get to, but we've got to take a commercial break and move on. But before we do go, contact information for the people that are interested in what you do, your product, your services, and maybe even investing in your company.
You bet. You can find us on the web at juniperunmanned.com. There's points of reference, contact information there. There's a link to my email address, and we'd be happy to provide additional information to those who are interested.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right. You've been listening to Jeff Cozart, CEO, JuniperUnmanned.com. This is Michael Yorba and Mervyn Price on CEO Money. We'll be right back on the other side of this break. William Santana Lee, Chairman, CEO, Nightscope Incorporated.